Welcome back to the Exhaust Note Podcast. This is the third episode where I talk to Graham Smith, the manager of 10 Tenths Motor Club. If you've not seen the first and second episodes yet, I recommend going back and watching those before watching this one. Earlier you mentioned modifying your E30 and your G87. What all did you do?
So the E30 we'll get to. The G87 was, I bought the car at the time, the car before that was the NSX. And I think I want to say I came to realization, but I bought another car like that later on, but I'm not really a supercar guy. I think they're cool and I love driving them, but I've learned that I don't necessarily like to own one. And it's not for any of the reasons, the stereotypical stuff like the cost or things like that, or like, you know, how expensive a service is. It's more just the usability of it all. It's tough to be able to take that car on a long road trip. Not because it's uncomfortable. Like I said, the NSX was amazing. I mean, truly, like it would glide across like a rough road and you wouldn't even know you were on a rough road. But the storage in the back was the size of a suitcase and it's right on top of the exhaust, like a C6 Corvette. So like it's just melting whatever you brought with you on your trip. So all that to say, I decided I need something fun that's got a lot of power that I can rip with, but I can still go to work in it every day, maybe even daily drive the car. So the M2 came up. Bought the M2 brand new, manual. It was that frozen gray metallic. Got the bucket seats and everything in there, and was like, I want it to be sporty, but I don't want it to be undrivable. So I started to modify the car, put an exhaust on it that was probably a bit too loud from Dynan, and I did some. I ordered some suspension parts and things like that. Got some wheels for the car, and right before I went to get the suspension and wheels put on. After doing all this exhaust work and then some suspension links and things like that to just connect the steering a little bit better. Those cars, you know, the electronic steering gets a little bit numb. So I wanted to put some solid bushings in the car to make it just handle a little bit better. Right before, though, I took it over, I made the mistake that many M2 drivers and Mustang owners have made in the past, and I slid it into a curb. Not proud of it, but it happened. So that car, unfortunately, what I ended up doing was I went through with the modifications after, but I did find someone to buy the car before it was done being modified. So they got all the parts. I know the owner. He's a really, really great guy. He'll be at the Heritage, actually, and we were joking. I was like, you need to bring that car so I can see what you've done with it, because he's turned it into a complete track weapon now. So it's awesome. But the E30, I was on a trip with my dad, and we saw this E30 go up on Bring a Trailer. 175,000 miles on the original engine, black, and it had an Evo tribute kind of kit going. So it had some side skirts and like this little gurney flap on the rear wing, or the spoiler back there to imitate the Evo. It had the Technicolor, like, you know, seats, and this it was like everything. And I remember sitting there thinking, like, man, 175K is a lot of miles, but like, I mean, for what this is, that means it was driven, and I love driven cars. So like, I'll just start bidding. And so I start bidding on it, and I get to my comfort point. Okay. Like I'm very good when it comes to an auction at saying, like, that's it. Like, I've reached my limit. I have to walk away. Well, my dad was there. And so he starts egging me on. And you'd think your dad's going to be like a good influence on you in that regard. No, he was ready to help me spend my money. So he said, what if we do like I'll pay for like a quarter of the car and you can let me drive it, like, you know, every once in a while. He's like, I want you to get this thing, like, going on it. And a quarter turned into a half, and we ended up going splits on the car and paid probably too much for it, to be honest. As Bring a Trailer is really good at making you sit down and drool over a car at no matter what the price is. You just start to think like, maybe, and we ended up winning. So I got the car, and it was really well done. Honestly, it was good. It was a good car. It was done kind of a club sporty build, but didn't really have like the bucket seat roll cage thing. It just had a nice set of I think suspension was stock, but it had like a really good setup on the car. Like, it had maybe a little bit of adjustment made. I didn't really get super deep into what that car already had on it, other than it had a nice, pretty mild exhaust. So much of what I did with that car was just trying to get it to reliably work every time I wanted to use it, that at the time I was about to propose, I was going to go buy an engagement ring and all of this. And I started looking at it, and I was like, what it really needs is someone that can take this thing and give it a full new life. And I'm not that guy, unfortunately. And I regret it. Like, I don't regret getting married, but I do regret that car was I bought it too early, I think. Like I got that car at an age where I wasn't really prepared to do all that work. And I'm happy I got to drive it around. I got to see the track. It was here when the track opened, so I got to drive it around and do a lap in the E30, which was kind of like an ultimate moment. But I'm hopeful that whoever has it now is able to restore it back to its true glory and pull the odometer back up to 250. I think it should go even higher than that, but that engine was getting a little tired, probably needed a rebuild, and S14 engine rebuild wasn't going to work with the budget I was working with that time. So, but it was fun. It was a good time.
Do you have a favorite form of racing?
Oh man, I see I see my favorite parts of racing exist in a lot of different series. So like I grew up around NASCAR. So there's a history element to that I think I'm always going to be drawn to. And knowing so many of these drivers personally, knowing their families, like growing up around them and seeing how this legacy has changed their lives forever, and they're always going to be in racing. I think I know NASCAR on such a personal level that I'm always going to think of it as like the history one for me. I got into F1 a lot later, so I wasn't really around, and I'm educating myself now. I like to watch old races and read stories about like drivers from history, but I got into it more for that strategic, the technological piece. I like the idea that a manufacturer is throwing everything at a car, trying to make it fast, and like it's a global behemoth like Mercedes is dedicating real manpower and hours to going fast. I think that's so cool. Like that's a really cool thing. In the same regard, I would say I'm drawn to endurance racing because it is that pure. I still think it's the purest form of motorsport. It really is. Like it's not only can it go fast, but can you make it? Like can you finish today? That to me is really exciting. And then as far as just raw excitement, it's hard to beat rally cars, man. It's that is the coolest thing ever. I don't know if I could ever be that high up in the air in a hatchback and be okay, but I hope that I could. Every time I drive on a loose surface, like I drive in that Escort and the Legend car over at Montana for the ice race, I think that's probably the most fun you can have in a car is loose surface driving. But yeah, I think they've all got their own charm. It's just different things about each one.
What is the most different car to drive, I should say?
Most different car to drive.
Farthest away from a daily.
Yeah. Man, there's been a few. I mean, like there's certain cars that I don't understand how you drive anywhere but the racetrack. GT2 RS. Unbelievable car. But like I'll tell you right now, unless you are a very, very strong driver, getting that car around a track like this that's much more technical and tight, it's a like wrestling up air. I mean, that thing has so much power delivered almost instantly. Like it is turbocharged, but it's Porsche turbocharged, so it kicks on quick. That's definitely one that blew me out of the way. Mr. Hendrick has one, and I drove it. It's a full Manti aero kit too, and it's all just been done up to make lap times. And it's a difficult car to drive, but it's a really fun car to drive. There's not a lot of cars that I've driven where I haven't been able to like enjoy driving it on the road. I'd say like some of the Italian cars, man, they're so fun, but they do come with that. All right, did I check everything? Like, are we making it home today? Like you never really know. And it's a bit of a mixed bag. But then at the same time, because I know that people will tell you like, oh, I've got this reliable, like it's never had a problem. There are a few gems out there that like what Vin Inatra has been doing with his 360. Like it's this perfectly built car that he can drive on road trips and then also take it to the track and enjoy it, but it doesn't really have any real major issues other than, when you take a car apart and put it back together, you're going to run into stuff. But when you're just driving it, like it's cool that there are a few reliable Italians out there. I don't know. The E30 was probably one of the least daily drivable cars that I've ever had, and I loved it. My wife and I took it to dinner one night, and we were stuck in traffic. It was the middle of summer in Charlotte, and so it's 90 degrees and the sun's setting and it's still 90 degrees. And we're sitting in traffic and I'm trying to, not stall it out. And the engine's just, as I see the temperature just start creeping up. And I'm thinking like, man, like if we don't get to a parking lot soon, we're gonna be pushing this E30 up this hill. And there's moments like that where you're like, okay, like maybe this car is better when I know exactly where I'm going and there's not going to be traffic and things like that. But I don't know. It's I don't know. I think I've found a way to enjoy every car, and they're all unique in the way they drive. There's always like there's always gonna be a car that I would rather take on a date with my wife, and a car that I would rather come to the track with, and then some cars that you just want to drive. You just want to like cruise around in it. My mom's got a '57 Chevy Bel Air, and I really don't like it. Like I would tell her, I'm sorry, mom. Like, but like it's like I don't love the car, but when I get in it and drive it, it's like, yeah, I would never. This isn't something I would own. Like I would never want this, but it's kind of fun. Like the top's down. It's a convertible. You can drive down the road in it, and you kind of feel like it's an event to be in it. I don't know. Like it's I find kind of enjoyment in all the weird cars.
If you could own any car, what would it be, and what would you do with it?
So it's like it's just one is so tough. You know, I struggle not to say some sort of air-cooled Porsche because frankly, I do assign value to things. Like I could not see myself spending that kind of money on a car, what they're going for today. But if I did, I would like to have something that I could cruise in. It still needs to handle decently well. Like I'd like to take it to the mountains and drive on the roads up there, or if it was in California, like a Canyon Crusher. But I wouldn't want to sacrifice as much comfort for performance. A lower horsepower, older 911 that I could just lay on the throttle and maybe not even go anywhere. Just like if it's, like a stock motor on some of these older cars, you're talking like sub 300 horsepower. Like that's kind of what I'm looking for. I think the next vehicle for me would be something along those lines. I don't really ever want to sell the 997. That's kind of like I've locked in on this. My first 911. It's the car that I hope that I can be buried with one day. Look, anybody that watches this that knows me knows that there's a 1 in 10 chance of me actually keeping the car. But I would like to couple it up with something. I love 996s. I think they're really cool. They're having a bit of a moment right now. They're starting to come back up. Be cool to get like a 4S, like an old Carrera 4S, or even just a C4 narrow body car that you could drive around and just have fun with. Put a nice set of wheels on it that you're never going to curb because you're not taking it to the racetrack, and some comfortable seats. Make sure the air conditioning works and the stereo works, and then you've got a car that's old but new, and you could drive that. But I don't know. If I had to narrow it down, I couldn't necessarily tell you what I definitely want to own, but there's certain cars I'd love a chance to drive. I'd love to drive a CGT. I think it would be awesome. I want to experience it once. I don't even know if I need to experience it more than once. Like I think if I drove a Carrera GT one time, I think I'd be good. Like that's enough for me. 918 was one that I almost had a chance to drive. I was a bit too young at the time, but I would love to have a chance to drive one of those. And then so I think anything in the Ferrari category that I haven't had a chance to touch yet. One's 355. I think it's one of the best looking quasi-modern Ferraris that exists, the 355. I'd love to drive one of those. But these are all cars that I'm kind of comfortable not owning or not even really aspiring to own. I think if I'm going to own a car, it has to be willing to take some abuse. It has to be willing to go on road trips it's not designed to do. And like taking your 997 GT3 camping. I've done that. It's not ideal. I wouldn't recommend it unless you're looking for an entertaining story. But it's I don't know, kind of a short list of cars that I actually would want to buy, but lots that I want to drive.
What is the best sounding car that you've heard?
That I've heard or driven? Maybe both.
Let's go for both.
So, I mean, Pagani does some pretty incredible stuff when it comes to sound. I've gotten to hear some of those, Car Week, things like that. Gosh, that's tough. Honestly, one of the best ones I've ever heard and also driven is the Roof SCR. Yeah, that's a masterpiece noise. It almost isn't in it. You can't compare it to anything. It doesn't sound like a Porsche motor even. Like it's based, I know, on an original OEM engine, but it has this specific tone to it. It's this rasp to it as well that just sounds so motorsport. And that's like, I think that sound, like whatever that sound is, like motorsport is kind of like the threshold. Like that's like what you measure it off of. because that's unrestricted. You don't have to worry about, emissions or filters, things like that. So the closer that you get to motorsport while having the ability to either put a valve in it or like at lower RPMs if it doesn't wake up yet, that's like perfection. I mean, I think the roof does the best job in the world with that. I mean, when you had the valves closed, I drove the car in a rally in Northern California, and it was fantastic. Just cruising down the road, conversation with the person next to me was easy. I didn't have to yell. And then you open the valves up, and once it gets up just ahead of 3.5, 4,000, it's such a screamer. I mean, it just rips. That, and then honestly, that Alpha, that 4-cylinder in that old Alpha was pretty amazing. It was I got to hear that one great too, because it had side pipes, and I ran up against the wall at Sonoma, like right up against the wall, and you could just hear this just booming 4-cylinder sound in your ear. And it only revved to like just shy of 6,000 RPM. So it was always that deeper tone. That's probably one of the coolest sounds I've heard too. I'm going to be all over the place when it comes to those, though. I've gotten to hear a lot over the years.
Do you have a favorite event that you've been to, except for the ones here, obviously?
I was going to say, if you put the caveat on it, yeah, or that little note there. Velocity was great. I think that was really cool. Honestly, what Ferdy has done with the ice race has been really, really neat. I've had a chance to go to the original in Aspen, where I drove the Escort. I was in Austria for a trip with some friends, and actually was there at the same time as the ZLMC ice race, and so I got to go to that as well. And then the one in Montana, and each one has been so different. The one in Aspen was a logistical struggle for them. I know that it was tough. They kind of pieced it together, but they did an excellent job at what they actually were accomplishing. And I think, Ferdy wants it to be perfect, and I totally respect that. I had a lot of fun there. I thought it was great. The ZLMC one is so different. This whole town in Austria, ZLMC, it's not a very big, it's a very small town, but everybody loves this event because it's been going on there for a really long time. And Ferdy kind of brought it back to life in recent years, but the whole town just comes out of the woodwork, and you have all these locals there to support their guy. Like Ferdy is that part of Austria. So it was cool to see that. And then the one in Montana was just ridiculous. I mean, like, you've got Don Tolliver out there sliding around in a Dakar, and all of the automotive YouTube communities there, and like Brian Scotto's there, and James Pumphrey, and they're all walking around, and everybody's in the same place at the same time. It was like this big reunion. And I heard a take recently about like it's like some people can't stand when you like do the whole like, oh, it was about the people. Like, that event, like, truly it was like a big reunion. It was. And granted, the event was amazing. Like the logistics that it takes to put on an ice race in Montana. There's nowhere easy to get in Montana. It's not like, you have to drive miles to get to where you're going. And to be able to put all that stuff together, to be able to orchestrate the helicopter shuttles to bring people and things in, and like, that's amazing to me. It's a feat nonetheless, like that. And I'd say as well, our friends at Willow Springs put on the Reimagined event. To see a track get brought back to life, what we did with Wilkesboro, to be able to see that done at a road course that I've played in video games for most of my life, and then get to be a part of it. We helped them operate that track from a motorsport side, seeing it all come back to life, and seeing like all these people get so excited to like that Willow's going to get some love. It's going to get some attention. They're going to put some money into it and make it nice without getting rid of the history, without getting rid of what makes it so cool now. That was really neat to see the community get all hyped up about that.
If you could give one piece of advice to someone who's just getting into cars, what would that be?
Oh, I mean, there's one that's probably been said 1,000 times, but I promise you, like, you've heard about some of the stuff I've driven. I mean, like, I've driven a lot of high horsepower stuff, but there is nothing more fun than being in something that is not very fast, but handles well. Because when you can really rely on your ability to control a car versus your ability to put your foot down, it's the best thing ever. There's like, get the Miata, get the GTI, like, go after the car that you can afford, that puts a smile on your face, and drive the daylights out of it. Also, don't look at your odometer unless you're looking at when you need to get your next service. Like, miles are a good thing. It's a real shame now, I think, to see like, cars that don't have miles on them. Like, it's tough. Like, I get it. I totally understand it from like a collection. Like it's the same thing with cards, like Pokemon cards, sports cards. You want to keep them pristine. And I do appreciate it. But there's something so cool about seeing a car that would otherwise be put in a collection being driven hard. So whether it's a rare car or something that they make 30,000 of, drive it. Just put a ton of miles on it. Like if it's, and I say the Miata, like your GR86s, BRZs, that's just going to make you fall in love with driving more. Case in point, that GR Corolla has seen just as many laps around this track as the 997. And I have a great time driving it. Actually, probably a better time driving it because I know that I can crush through some curbing and whatnot. And thankfully, it's a little bit easier to get parts for the Toyota. So yeah, you drive whatever you have as hard as you can.
All right. Well, I really enjoyed talking with you. Thank you so much for letting us come out here.
Thanks for coming out, buddy.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
This has been the Exhaust Note Podcast. I'm Brynn Patton, and that is Graham Smith. We'll see you next time.